So seeing as you're having trouble with your setup, I decided it's just simpler for me to show you through a video. So I'm gonna do that. So setting this up is after you've gotten like the devices isolated and everything is quite simple. So let's just go like slowly through it here. So if you have your ISO installed and everything, just go, or you download it, sorry, just go and you select your ISO, and it will automatically see that it's Windows, and do your settings. I normally give it 8 gigs of RAM and 6 CPU cores because I don't have a very modern CPU. I have an old 3770. Just give it some disk space and customize installation, right? This bit you should be already familiar with. Now, we need to use OVMF because BIOS does have quite a few issues, and it's a lot harder to set things up properly with it. Also use Q35 because it's a better chipset for Windows in this case. It supports a better hardware like virtualization, among other things. As far as I've read, I can be wrong. So just use this. CPUs, I normally use copy CPU host configuration. Set it to 1 socket. Normally they recommend using more sockets, like say use 6 sockets if you want to have 6 CPUs. I found that doesn't always work. It will not always give you better performance. It will not always give you the expected CPU configuration in the actual virtual machine. So I use 1 socket, and I use 3 cores and 2 threads because that mimics the core setup on my CPU. So essentially, my CPU is an old Intel CPU. It has 1 thread for each core, so I want it to have 6 cores. So I just set it up as 3 cores and 2, or I want to have 6 allocations. So I would set up 3 cores and 2 threads per core. It is recommended to some extent to set up the virtual CPU in the same way that your NUMA nodes is set up on your real hardware CPU, because it can have some performance benefits, but I'm not sure it's entirely necessary. You with your Ryzen CPU should have no issues with this. I would just attempt different configurations if you can't get it to work properly. Memory's fine. Boot options. This one is actually important. We need to set it to boot from the CD-ROM. So let's just save that. The disk should be SATA. No, I'm sorry, VirtIO. As far as I've seen, write back is most commonly used most commonly used caching system. So disk needs to be SATA. This is important, and this will, as far as I know, automatically get connected later on to our Windows disk. So use that. Now remove all the hardware you don't need, and that's most of it. So we don't need any of the. If you want to do the sound through this, you want to do the sound virtualized, you can do that with the sound system. Though keep in mind that it's quite buggy and hasn't worked at all for me. Though I'm on a very old system, so it might work better for you. There is a post I made a while ago on the forums outlining how to get that set up. Tell me if you need it, I'll link it to you. Remove console spies, remove video QXL, and remove these buggers. Now we just set that to USB 3 and we use that. So if you're using VirtIO and you haven't had it installed already, you should probably connect up an additional CD-ROM. I don't remember exactly how we did it in the tutorial, but I would look at it and do it the same way, because VirtIO is a lot faster than the virtualized SATA connections for the disk and the NIC. So you want to use the VirtIO there instead. Now we need to connect our graphics card. So we go in here, add that, excellent, and we go in here and we add the audio controller, excellent. Now that's fine. We also need a keyboard because we're gonna have to press a button when starting up the CD-ROM, or else it will just drop back to the UFI. And I suspect that might be what's happening with you before you ever even get into the OS. Maybe, I'm not sure, but I would go in and just add a keyboard temporarily, because we're not going to get a virtual machine window up here with the display here now. It's very important that you connect up a monitor to the graphics card now, the one that's dedicated to the virtual machine, because we're going to have to use that separately. So you won't be able to see the actual install stuff here. I'm just going to add a keyboard, one of my keyboards here, and that's it. Begin installation. So I'm going to have to switch over to a different monitor, different input now on the monitor. You won't be able to see that. Ah, fucking hell. I'm not doing this correctly, I might have already missed it. That's me pressing a few buttons. Yeah, it's booting into the Windows now. So, with that setup I just did, with the exact steps I just did for the virtual machine, it is now booting into the Windows installer, using the dedicated graphics card that I've passed through to it, instead of using a console on the desktop. Now, right now you can't see it, but I have the select language screen for the Windows installer. So I would attempt doing it this way I've done now. I'll show you before I finish here. I'm just going to have to go back to the correct display. I'm going to show you here quickly the modifications I've done. So normally, like, I would boot it up once, see that it boots, and before I do anything more, I'll go into Verge, and we'll edit Win10.2. And I would add the edits. God damn it. I would add the edits I put in my previous post. So up here is where you'll put this. Right. So just remove this. We'll just paste it in. It didn't actually remove the old stuff. There you go. And down at the very bottom, below devices, you want to add the additional commands structure here. This one, this bit here. Right? Just copy that, and we'll just paste it in. And that's that. It should now be able to circumvent error 43. So let's just save and exit, and it was edited with no problems. So now my system there should be able to boot without the use of without having error 43. Obviously, I'll have to also link up the CD-ROM for VirtIO if I'm going to use VirtIO to install it, because right now the system, Windows, won't be able to recognize the disk that is being given, or the network connection. You need the VirtIO system and all that to fix that. But anyways, I hope this was helpful, and it helps you a bit to get it started up, because just show you how simple your setup can be. You don't need all the spy stuff. You don't want all the spy stuff, because it can actually cause more issues than not. Because when you boot in, it will force you to use the VGA setup, the virtualized VGA setup, because Windows won't be able to use the other graphics cards, because it will be forced to use that. But anyways, good luck to you, and do let me know if you have any other problems getting stuff set up.